Well, we're going to run a bit of clearing around the whole Egypt thing. And I really would like you to take the opportunity to really just let go of all that stuff that happened, and so we don't have to take this into the new cycle at the end of the year. That would be really good. And then we'll, just from there, from a place of more harmony, we'll kind of attune to the crystal healing and the healing knowledge that we had in those times that we may have forgotten or have gone dormant with. So the whole debacle that happened, well, in Egypt and before that in Atlantis, but it seems that Egypt is really the biggest issue that different ones in the group are hanging on to. The whole thing in Atlantis went a little wrong. Well, you know, it was a very enlightened civilization. There was healing temples and initiates growing everywhere, and, you know, schools for spiritual growth and mastery and so on. Lots of teachings happening, lots of, you know, working with the kingdoms of nature in harmony and so on. A lot of understanding about working with energy and crystal technology and all of that. And what happened is that there was a certain group of people there that had come to you know, to teach and support the local life wave to grow into more of their potential and to evolve. And at some point, some individuals and some, you know, ones with certain authority decided that things were not really progressing fast enough as they should or as they wanted them to, and started meddling a little bit more perhaps than they should have. But they, you know, they really thought they were doing the right thing. They just made certain choices, just trying to see things through. Perhaps not always in harmony with instructions from upstairs and so on. And so that created a bit of a split within these elder brothers and sisters in Atlantis, where there was those that, you know, went along with that, deciding to tamper with genetics and a few things around like this to see how we could evolve the race here faster, and there are others that just were like, no, that feels really wrong. And the thing just went so far that it started with a bit of conflict and you know, the natural energies, because, you know, so much was worked on with energy and using the crystals and the various, you know, energy ley lines and the power of the earth and so on, that as the split really went more intense, and, you know, those that really were, you know, for accelerating the process and so on kind of lost it a little bit. You know, they just got a bit carried with what they thought their own agendas and lost a bit of that, completely surrendering to the greater will. And, well, the whole thing ended with a sort of a natural cataclysm. You know, we all know the flood and all that stuff, which, you know, earthquakes and volcanoes and floods and so on, because the natural energies were just really out of balance and really upset through all that interaction of these different groups and within themselves. And so out of Egypt, were led several exodus, 12 of them, each led by a particular evolved soul from that group of the elder brothers and sisters that felt that, you know, the way things, that choice to accelerate things were just not right. Basically, Egypt was an Atlantean colony. Atlantis had colonies all over the world, including in Australia. So Egypt then, a certain group that was led by, who is now called Master Ra, settled in Egypt, and a bunch of us here were involved in that whole project that went on for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years actually. And a lot of the mystery school, the whole Isis and Osiris thing, all these, you know, the Anubis and so on, all of that was actually the different beings that were involved at the time. That was before what you would call recorded history, before the whole, you know, the dynasties and the pharaohs and all that, because the whole thing really ended at about a bit before 5000 BC. And, you know, there was a lot of the Syrian energy involved in that, but there was different groups. The Pleiadians were involved as well, and there was just different groups. The Arcturians popped in as well, and different groups trying to be involved in this project, which was really about training initiates and training the local souls as well as other souls to reach high levels of evolution and mastery in order to assist the evolution of this planet. And so there was a lot of mystery schools, teachings passed on, the pyramids, all of this was all part of that concept, the Sphinx. The Greater Pyramid was actually a sort of resonance chamber to really, where certain initiates at a certain point in the journey would go to go through a sort of initiation and activation and attunement to Source. And some of these pyramids were also used to close certain vortices to certain places in the galaxy where there was not so nice ones. So it's kind of like closing the doors on certain beings in different places that may have wanted to come in as well, and unwanted energies. And a lot of the structures in Egypt as well were used to, almost like radio transmitters, to transmit overlighting energy to, the local population and globally as well. So, a lot of these were used as resonators using crystals and the energies of the earth, and drawing on all of that, the ley lines and so on, and certain alignments and attunements with the positions of the stars and so on were used to, as a radio transmitter of overlighting energies to support the growth of the planet, energies of unconditional love and above. And at some point, things starting to get a little bit corrupted. There are, it's not down to any one person or any one individual or any one being. It's like a lot of little things contributed. There was these beings that were the elder brothers and sisters were not really local souls. They were more, the main group of the ones in Egypt was from Sirius. And what they did is just not reproduce with the local population, because there were different races, like literally. These beings could live for hundreds and hundreds of years, hence the whole immortality of the pharaoh and so on. A lot of what you came later with pharaohs being the representative of gods and being immortal and all that stuff actually comes from the memories from that time with these beings who were the high priests and priestesses and the guides and the people in charge of the whole thing to some degree were actually, it seemed immortal to the local people because they just lived for so long. So, and they were really just, working with Source, working with the higher energies, working with upstairs to try to serve here in this capacity to help this planet, come back online and in tune with the rest of the evolutionary plan for this galaxy and this universe. And so certain ones starting to actually fall in love with and reproduce with local ones. And certain ones were used through their attachments and starting to get caught up in human stuff. Basically, certain ones starting to get caught up in the human experience and human things here and be charmed by it. And there was, the attraction of power and the whole romantic thing and attachment and so on. And certain ones and lots of different ones, and and that's where we really gonna have to do some clearing, because there's different ones in the group that feel like either it was their fault or they played such a part in it that they can't forgive themselves. Lots of mistakes were made, and then basically they were easy targets, either because they started to get lost to ego a little bit, or simply because the people could then use them through their attachments and their needs and so on with the human needs to then get a way in and really bring fear into these pure energies that were being beamed out and were really being held. As part of the whole thing, there was also a bit of a debacle where Osiris was actually killed, and his soul was also damaged through the process. And that's the whole thing of Osiris being killed and then being put back together by Isis and then reborn as Horus. So all of these myths actually have a root in reality. So things just went really wrong, and basically what happened is that so much fear started to infiltrate into the matrix and the group energy of these beings that were supposed to hold the bar really high, and things just starting to go so haywire that it all had to be taken down. It was starting to beam fear rather than love in the overlighting energy. It was starting to everything was it got to the point where it was beyond saving. And so basically forces from a bit outside of this planetary sphere just came in and took down the whole thing. So, you know, basically destroyed a lot of the temple structures, the radio transmitters, all of that. And some of you may remember, I know we've done some exercises with some of those that have been in the group for longer, of remembering that. And so some of us have visions and remember this feeling of everything just crumbling down to the ground, things going black, sand everywhere, and everything just exploding and going to crap. And some of us actually have memories of that. And certain ones actually left before that happened, and others stayed behind for whatever reason through their attachments, and or because they didn't realize or didn't believe what was happening, or others out of a sense of obligation to the local people to guide them and through this whole debacle. And those that left then came back, but there are some that just, you know, that just actually left while all that was happening. And so, you know, there's also often feelings of abandonment for those who stayed behind, where they felt that, you know, some of the leaders that left while that was happening actually abandoned them. And so there's a lot of unresolved feelings in there. Some of you are conscious of this, some of you are not really conscious of it, but there is something perhaps in you that has a sense of maybe getting stirred up a little bit, maybe a bit uncomfortable, or just not really wanting to go there. Some of you might link more to the experience in Atlantis, that whole, you know, debacle there. So that's basically what happened, and that's why, you know, all the pyramids and all that were actually buried under so much sand. When they were discovered, you know, they had to dig really down to start discovering the points. All the sand is actually all the remnants of all the structures and limestone buildings and so on that were around them. Okay, so I'm going to guide you through a bit of a process to kind of get in touch with all of this. It's not so much, the story is really to give you a bit of a cup to put it in, perhaps. But the story really doesn't matter. You don't have to remember where you were, who you were, what you did or didn't do. All you have to do is really work with the feelings and really just no expectation. Don't have any expectation. So some of you just may be like, nah, I don't think I was there. It doesn't resonate. And that's fine, because some of you may not have been there. A lot of you were. And those of you who were not in Egypt may have probably been in Atlantis. It's very unlikely that you weren't at all there at that time. So just get in touch with whatever you can get in touch. Just work with the energies and just allow yourself to just go there and see where we go from here. Okay. So make sure we're aligned and centered. So once again, we're not going to go off anywhere and leave our body. We're going to stay really here. We're just going to expand our awareness out into space and time. And I'll guide you through a bit of a visualization to help you connect with all of that. And let's set a very clear intention in this process to feel those feelings. For many who were there, they're often feelings that are buried really deep inside, really judged. Sometimes there's locks put on them or seals because we just don't want to go there because we judge it so much, whatever happens or whatever part we played in it. And for others, it may be right there already stirring under the surface. So I'd like you to actually see yourself again in the one crystal cave that we went to the other day, with all of the crystals and all of the crystal caves of the earth, all the different clusters, right there. Setting an intention to go there, to feel as it feels without expectation, to trust the energy to guide you where you need to go, and to have the courage to follow that. And to have that clear intention to really let go, to turn the page. Whatever judgment you have about this, whatever locked you hold on these issues, it's irrelevant now. It was a long time ago, and let's leave that behind so we don't have to take it with us in the new cycles. Things have changed a lot since. It's really time to let it go. Here we are in the crystal caves. Ask the crystals without expectations to assist you with this process, to assist you to remember, to feel, and to let go. Some of these crystals were actually around when it happened. They actually hold that energetic vibration. So allow them to beam that vibration at you, how it felt at the time, that vibe of ancient Egypt. It's also called the Circle of Sirius. To help us remember, to help us heal, to help us let go. Why are we here? Why did we come here? How about we let go and get on with it? Just walk as you feel guided in the crystal caves to whatever crystal cluster you feel guided to, that resonates for you, to help you get in touch with all of that. And allow yourself to reconnect with the feeling of that time. You may not remember, but there's something in you, and the crystals do, that remembers. And as you keep walking, I'd like you to come now face to face with a big Egyptian temple door. These big Egyptian doors that are kind of narrow at the top than at the bottom. Trapezes kind of shape. Trapeze, I don't know how you say it. With all these Egyptian symbols on them. And around them, all the hieroglyphs and other symbols that are not really hieroglyphs, they're more like Syrian symbols and other symbols. Just see it, see the symbols, read the symbols. You read it from the right to the left, from bottom to top. It's like reading backwards. Down the center, along the central part of the doors where the doors join together, there are symbols such as the winged Isis, the Eye of Ra, the Ankh, the beetle. And there's actually a big, one of these Egyptian beetle symbols at the center between the two doors, holding them sealed. And I'd like you, with your heart, with the depth of your heart, from the depth of your being, the spirit self, the presence that you are, the being that you are, from your heart, connecting with that beetle, beaming from your heart to the beetle, and loving it, and allowing it through that beam of energy and of love and of gratitude and appreciation. See that energy slowly dissolve the beetle, seal. And as it dissolves, the doors slowly start to open and you start to remember. It opens up into that part of your being that you shut away a long time ago, but you're now opening the doors to that. Remember that part of you as the doors slowly begin to open onto ancient Egypt. Maybe inside a temple, and maybe outside near the pyramids and some other temples. Egypt was much greener back then. There was trees and palm trees, pathways, healing temples, wide and bright, lights coming in through the holes, the windows up there. There was torches, there was crystal lights shining, crystals glowing, beings, people, the high-level initiates walking around. Some were healing rooms, some were teaching rooms. Just soak in the atmosphere. Start there. Things felt very different and were very different back then. Being an initiate was an honor. It was supported, it was something encouraged. High priests and priestesses were at the top of society back then. There was a whole community of initiates and priests and priestesses. You may have been a man, a woman, just go with whatever comes, whatever you see, whatever you feel, whatever you hear. Just remember that time where you were perhaps a little bit more together, a bit bigger, a bit more switched on. You knew so much about spirit and working with energy and working with healing and crystals. That was your life. The Nile was already there. For those of you who connect more with Atlantis, to some degree it was a bit similar kinds of structures, and there was a lot of water running through cities, temples, height on top of hills and mountains and cliffs, and down in the city with underground chambers for healing, sometimes with underground springs. Pyramids had a metal tip at their top, as did some of the temples in Atlantis. If you see symbols, just allow them to come to you. Feel how your awareness was so expanded. There's a sense of connection with all the other initiates. A link, a bond between all these people that were part of that group of elder brothers and sisters, teachers. Allow yourself to reconnect with that ancient part of you. Whatever part of you questions, doubts, blocks, just feel it, clear it, let it go, transmute. Remove the seals, dissolve the blocks. Use the violet flame, the white light, your love, your acceptance, to let it all go. Allow these doors to open, allow yourself to feel or see or hear or know. Maybe you just know. Something really old, really ancient there in you that remembers all of it. It's not a head thing, in feeling. Remembers all of it in feeling. It's a sense, a knowing, a feeling. So many of us working in service, teaching and healing, and we did these big healings with a group of 10 people, healing one person. With all the crystals and all of this, how powerful was that? We knew that stuff. We knew it backwards. Same in Atlantis. Egypt really is a continuation of what was in Atlantis, to a great degree. Allow the knowledge, the knowing, the wisdom to come back to you, that ancient knowing. You knew about magic, which was just working with energy. You knew about healing, you knew about crystals, you knew about working with the earth. You knew about teaching this process of enlightenment and mastery. All the initiations that you were put through and put other students through. It was all about mastering fear and clearing fear. And you may see colors, you may see crystals, you may see symbols, you may see nothing, and just feel lots of things. Don't try to make sense of it. Just, if it feels like unconditional love and above, it feels like you, it feels like the truth, just breathe it in. Mother, Father, God, thy will, not my will, be done. Work on bringing it back, reawakening, integrating. All of the priests and priestesses there were trained seers, high level seers, like you don't find much today. You were like that, you knew this. And it's that easy, you can start to reclaim and reactivate this stuff. You are allowed, you have permission. But for this, you may have to let go of a few blocks and a few, maybe vows, maybe curses imposed on yourself. Some of you actually cursed yourself after the debacle, after it all went to crap, after it all fell apart and was destroyed. So as you continue bringing in that remembrance, reactivating, reawakening, feel into anything in you where you're hanging on to the pain, the guilt, the limitations, the judgments about it going so wrong. Feel it and let it go. It's just something that happens. That ancient wisdom and knowing is not lost until you keep it locked away. It's not lost unless you keep it locked away. And you can unlock it now, but you gotta let go of the locks, the blocks, the judgments, the seals, the curses. Connect with who you were then. And from what you've learned here, far into the future, about 10,000 years into the future, 11,000 years. Share with yourself how much you need to not do the guilt and curse stuff. How it's all right. How you can learn your lesson without going into locking yourself down like that. Any part of you that feels penitent or feels like it's not worth even trying or doubting that it can work, let it go, clear that, because it can. Time is an illusion, it's all happening right now. It's all just different points in space. It looks like time has passed, but it's actually just in another place in creation that's happening right now. So you can connect with it, and you can feel it, and you can choose to share some of what you know and have learned and the wisdom to help you let go of the guilt, the pain, the locks, the curses, whatever you did when it all started to get distorted and polluted with fear. When some of us started to get caught up in the charms of a human life. It was a bit exotic for us at the time. You know, we have to understand what happened. Now we've done it for thousands of years, we're a bit bored with it, but at the time it was like, wow, that sounds interesting. It's a bit exotic, this human thing. So have compassion for yourself. In some ways we were not prepared, but we are now. So it's time to turn the page, to let go. You gotta feel it, you gotta undo it, you gotta unravel it, you gotta let go. And then you remember, you reclaim the greatness. It's not about being like you were exactly, it's just about reclaiming the wisdom, the knowledge, the knowing, the greatness, the abilities. In, of, and for love, in service to all that is. Only used in unconditional love and above. This is the condition that you put on this for yourself. I can only use these in the service of unconditional love and above, in service of the divine plan, in a selfless manner. Otherwise, I can't use them. If I try to do it in a selfish way, or out of fear, it won't work. But when I come from unconditional love, oh yeah, it's there, it's all switched on, it's coming back. It was sad. Such a great civilization, it was our home for hundreds of thousands of years. All the light, the wisdom, the love that was there. Nothing was ever the same after that. That was the last great mystery schools. There were some great mystery schools in ancient Greece and even in some in Egypt and stuff, but it was nothing like it was then. So sure, it was a great loss, but nothing is lost forever. So feel the pain of that loss. And probably most of us played a bit of a part in it. Doesn't mean it was all our fault. Doesn't mean you can't get over it. It was all destroyed. It all fell apart. A bunch of us were scattered around. Some of us went unconscious. Some of us stayed conscious for a while. We went on to continue to try to either punish ourselves for it or regain something from it. Continued on our journeys century after century. But it's time to remember who we are, why we came here, and it's time to let go of that deep hurt. Those of us that felt abandoned because the leaders, those that we thought might stick it to the end, actually left for things to be destroyed and taken down. So any of that anger, judgment, abandonment stuff, you gotta let it go. There was no point in staying for everyone to stay. It was just no point. But you gotta feel it. You can't reason with this stuff. You gotta feel it, you gotta let it go. If it's not about love, it's not the truth. None of it was coming from malintent. We were not trying to destroy things or trying to hurt it. We thought we were doing the right thing, however misguided. Just connect with those feelings within you. You don't have to know the story or the details, just the feelings. Darkness started to come over, but there was so much light, so much love. Suddenly there was this darkness creeping in, all this fear creeping in. Things just didn't feel the same. Do you remember that? When you get that feeling, it's like, oh God, there's something wrong. Something's just so wrong. It happened so quickly in a way, very insidiously, just creeping in. So all the should have, would have, could have, just feel them and clear, let go. Let all of that rest in the past now. Allow it to be purged, to be cleared, to be transformed, transmuted, and returned to its original source. How many fuck-ups have we had along all these thousands of years? And how many great victories have we had? More than you think. We tend to not hang on to those as much. There's something dear and sacred and beautiful gets destroyed, gets lost. We've all felt that. We all know how that feels. So go right to the core, right to the bottom of the pain, of the grief, and let it all go. Empty that pool. Let's allow all of this to lay, to rest, to lay in peace. Let's stop dragging Egypt along with you everywhere. Let's let it just rest in Egypt now. Allow that pain to come out. Set yourself free from all of this. It does not have to define you. Make a mess, clean up mess. Yes, something beautiful and sacred was lost. But now's the time to let go of all the pain and all the darkness and all the punishment, to bring it back to life, to bring it here, to bring it with us into this new cycle. It's time to reclaim the ancient knowing, to reawaken the ancient knowing. So all that stuff in your energy, in your soul, that you carry from those times that's about pain and fear and limitation and lockdown, get a feel for it all and just remove it from your matrix with gratitude, with acceptance, Embrace it, feel it, be grateful, let it go. It doesn't have to be dramatic, it doesn't have to take hours, it can just happen. You take it all, get a sense for where all of that is within your being. Embrace it, let it go. And from the depth of the earth, with all the crystals that remember, as a new choice, as you're letting go of all of this, bring back the ancient knowing that you held, that you knew. And from the depth of your heart, the eternal being that you are, where all of that is there, dormant or locked away, bring it back. Bring it back. You leave the events of Egypt in Egypt, you bring back the wisdom from Egypt or Atlantis into the here and now. All the knowledge, the crystal healing, the working with energy, the spiritual teaching, the awareness, the switched onness, the oneness, the eternal knowing, the magic, in, of, and full of, in service to all that is, only in service of unconditional love and above, service of the divine plan in selflessness. All of you have achieved greatness levels much higher than the ones you hold now. Doesn't have to take years and years and years to remember that. It can start now and it will grow from here quicker than you think. I'd like you now to see yourself stepping into a temple through the outer rooms and spaces and courts. Just slowly stepping through, seeing the symbols and the doorways and the columns painted with colors. To remember all these images and things on the walls were actually painted in colors, and there were symbols in there that are not hieroglyphic. Lots of symbols, little triangles and lines and dots. And keep stepping through towards the inner sanctum. With respect and reverence, step into the inner sanctum. And on the altar, there in the center, there is an ankh, the Egyptian cross with the kind of oval at the top, ankh. And I'd like you to place this in your heart. It's a gold ankh. Place it in your heart and allow it to switch on and shine and radiate throughout your entire being. Bring in the recollection and knowing of the oneness with Source and coming from the Source and channeling energy. Allow it to fill your full body system. into your earth connection. There is also a little gold and precious stones, winged scarab. I'd like you to place that in your brow. Once again, allow the wings to then extend even more and spin and activate your seership again. Again, in of and full of, in service to all that is. Many colored wings spinning and circling around, linking into your seership abilities, these ancient abilities that you have had dormant for so long. Mother, Father God, thy will, not my will, be done. In due time, in of and full of, in service to all that is only. There is another amethyst and lapis scarab that you place on your heart, more as a protection. Helps protect your heart, your core, your connection with Source and your energy. Allow it to really feel that switching on a sort of protective structure. Doesn't mean you don't do your clearing and protection anymore, it's just a little bonus. Take a moment to really connect with all of the knowing and knowledge. Even though Egypt no longer is, the ancient knowing, the ancient wisdom still is. Not in Egypt, it's pretty dead now. Within you, all of you. Through your memory, your eternal memory. Atlantis the same. Allow yourself to really feel at peace with the way things went, how it was. Sure, it wasn't the best, but feel an acceptance of it, at peace with it. Feel okay with whatever part you played in it. Have compassion for yourself and for all involved. Have that understanding. And just allow it to just be left in the past. You have the symbols, you have the knowledge, you have the wisdom, you have the knowing, the abilities about the healing, the teaching, spirit, universal consciousness, all the Syrian stuff, all that's right there. So say goodbye to Egypt. What your attachment to it, whether it's through fear and guilt or whether it was about hanging on to past glories, whatever it is, just actually link with that time, that place, And allow yourself to make your goodbyes. Just when it's time to leave a particular place, a particular house that you've loved, but you know it's time to move on. You just know it. The events, the stories, you say goodbye to all of that. Let it rest in peace. You bring yourself here with all that wisdom, with all these abilities, with all those memories. There is no better time than right now. It's an exciting time. We got to bring everything we can into the here and now, into this new cycle. Egypt is dead and gone. Now our gap is happening. Doesn't sound as glamorous right now, but wait a few thousand years. Take your time to really anchor, to really integrate, to feel stronger in that, to feel energy starting to go to reawaken some of these places, to feel more freedom where you've let go of stuff, more space, more peace, more acceptance, whatever it is. Really ground it, really bring it into the here and now. 2012, now we're up in Australia, or wherever remote people are. People who are watching the video. I am so much more than I have thought myself to be. I know and hold so much more than I allowed myself to. But now is time, and now I choose to. In, of, and for love, in service of the divine plan, in service to all that is. I'm ready because I choose to be ready. And I stay strong in that. When the ego carries on, I'm like, no. I'm protecting these sacred things within me. Not out of fear, not like protecting as in shutting away or hiding. I'm holding that strong space around the sacredness within and all the wisdom that I hold and all the knowing that I hold. And no ego tantrums or triggers or emotional patterns come nowhere near being able to wobble that strong space, that strong sacred space I hold for myself. We just feel them. It's all irrelevant. Step into the bigness of all that you are. Step into the ancient knowing and ancient being that you are. And all the rest is just irrelevant stuff that you process. It's part of inhabiting a monkey. It's not who you are. You feel it, you take responsibility, you acknowledge, you run the process, you let go. It's irrelevant. It shouldn't even get your attention for more than a second while you just process it and feel it. Or maybe a few seconds if it's something deep, but you know what I mean. It's not something you just battle with or be victimized by. It's irrelevant. This is not who you are. You must remember. You are remembering. You feel it. You may not know with your head, but there's something in you that feels it and knows it and remembers. That's who you are. Here now. Grounded, present, feeling your connection with the earth. Keep things integrating, keep things moving and clearing and reawakening.